pleasant good evening to everyone, all those who are listening to us and viewing us live on LNO Studios. We greet you this evening as we have this wonderful interview with two of our great men, that is Pastor Caius Alfred and Dr. Niles Chitan, Dr. Neals Chitan. Thank you very much for that. And we are here this evening to speak on a critical issue facing our country, and I implore you to share the link and let others know that we are here discussing this very important issue tonight. No one wants themselves or their loved ones to be victimized by crime or to live in fear. Most theories in state make public safety or core responsibilities of the government. The problem facing modern governments, however, is that the principal tools used to advance public safety enactments and enforcement of criminal laws and punishment of offenders are increasingly understood to have modest effects on the rates of patterns of serious crime. As a result, a number of Western governments, including those of France, England, Sweden, and the Netherlands, have established specialized agencies to develop, test, and evaluate crime prevention initiatives using other than law enforcement tools. That's an excerpt taken from Michael Tonry and David Farrington, Strategic Approaches to Crime Prevention. Today, we in St. Lucia face the same challenges as our more developed countries, and they have struggled. They have struggled to reduce crime. But we are fortunate to have Dr. Chitan with us this evening so we can speak to the issue of crime reduction.
It's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yes. And Pastor Alfred as well.
I'm happy to accompany the expert.
Dr. Chitan is an author of many books, such as Respect Due, The Key to Solving Crime and Violence, and recently published Pulling the Plug, a practical guide to disarming the downward spiral of loss, grief, depression, and death. He is also the copyright holder of the Always Stop and Think Before You Proceed strategy, and is the frontline presenter for the international recognized 12 sessions social skills crime reduction series, Project Stop and Think. Dr. Chitan has also done intense work in many countries. So we know that we are speaking this evening to a very experienced individual in crime reduction. And of course, we have our Family Life Director, Dr. Pastor Alfred, who is here with us this evening. Say a few words for us.
Thank you. I'm just happy to be here. And, social transformation and crime reduction is a passion of mine. And I really love to see my country, take proactive steps to reduce it, and we have an expert here who has practical knowledge, of if not solutions, but there's a level of measured success in all of the different countries that he has gone to, and we can rejoice to be able to have a man like that around us.
Indeed, Dr. Chitan. Can you tell us, give us a snapshot of your work in crime prevention, crime reduction?
What's happening with our boys, especially our Caribbean boys on the streets of Toronto, getting into robbery, armed robbery, petty crimes, drugs, and so on. And at that time, I was the youth director for the Toronto West Seventh Avenue Church, which is the largest Caribbean church. We call it the mother of churches. And something said to me I had to get involved. We have to do something about this. We can't just be coming every Sabbath and have song service, Sabbath school, 10 minutes, divine, and then have a kind of AY that even youth don't want to come back to. And if you notice, a lot of older folks come back to AY, right? And I'm saying to myself, there we have young people dying on the streets. What are we going to do about that? Well, the truth about it is that I could not sleep with it. So what I did, I spoke to my church. And that's why today, my brother, I'm so happy that the Seventh Adventist mission of Seventh Adventist has initiated this. Right? Because I know what my call by the Lord is. I made a pact with him from when I was younger. I wanted to be a commando soldier for him. I studied the life of Samson and Gideon. I want to be like them. And so the call came to me to do something. And so in July 1990, we staged in the city of Toronto an anti-violence march. It was only 600 people. But I want to tell you, it made such an impact on the city that we have grown it on an annual basis into 15,000 people. We gave the city a headache, by the way. But we are well connected, the media houses and what have you, because and it reached to a point where they appreciated it so much that when the time was coming, we didn't have to go and fill out forms. They sent it to us, right? We became a partner with the city. Of course, we were known as Metro Toronto Anti-Violence and Drug Parade, right? But then I saw it, my brother, growing so powerfully into a one-day event. And then we went back to sleep for 364 days. But in the meantime, shots are still going out. And I said, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this? So I approached my church. And the traditional processes of the church did not have a space for something like that. So I had to go outside, I have to let you know, and target other social stakeholders to make this happen. Now, in the meantime, you probably remember my story where I lost a colleague at work. He committed suicide. And I could have helped. If you remember the story, I could have helped. I felt so guilty about it that I made a pact with the Lord in the 1999. I'm getting out of the dental field, Lord, and if it kills me. So I went to Harvard, the prestigious Harvard School in Boston, Massachusetts. Did some specialized courses. Sometimes we overeducate. No, be target specific. So I did some target specific courses. Youth suicide, youth psychotherapy, and I came back to Toronto. I then, using my teaching background, drafted a curriculum, a social curriculum, sold it to the Toronto District School Board, which is 578 schools, and we're off to the races. I started making a living out of it. A good living, by the way. So I could have afforded to invest more time into it, right? And so God has blessed. He took us from Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia. I got a call there. England, from Brixton, South London, those are New England, right across to Manchester. There was once, they say Brixton is under the knife. We went in there. Then, of course, across Canada and from Jamaica to Trinidad and Tobago. Our last assignment was with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis because their homicide spiked. They had the highest homicide rate in the world. What are you talking about? You see, as you know, there's a difference between the homicide count and the homicide rate. Count is how many. Rate is per capita, based on your, as compared to your population. That year in 2015, when Toronto, 6.5 million people, registered 70 homicides, 70, 6.5 million. St. Kitts registered 45,000 people. And so we went in there, and then we were contracted by the government. At that time, I had copyrighted four-dimensional, because my brother, I'm not interested in plaster work. And I told the Seventh-day Adventist Church here that, and I told everybody, Dr. King and everybody, if you guys are about aesthetics, I'm not about that. If you got a sore on your arm and you got to go to a wedding, I know an easy way to patch it up. Just put a plaster and get some foundation and make sure it blends in with your skin. But it's festering below. So I'm not a fruit guy. I'm a root guy. Because if you have a Julie mango tree, my friend, and it has worms, and you do something about it, the roots next year, it's more worms. To get a different fruit, you got to change the root. So we've done that across the world, and I want to let you know, as I wait for your next question, because I will keep on talking for the rest of the evening. I'm so happy to let you know, after three years, my social, we call ourselves social skill commandos, right? And that's my wife and myself. She is the love of my life. And Chitan, we call her Auntie Patsy. When we left St. Kitts and Nevis in 3 years' time, the homicide, I didn't say it by the way, the Prime Minister in his press conference reported that there was an 81, let me change that, a whopping 81% drop in homicides.
So you have a passion for crime reduction, and you have success stories to go with it. So we are not talking about a man who's not experienced, a man who's experienced, and he has this team that he works with his wife, and he works with countries to reduce crime. So what is crime?
Easy definition. The breaking of civil laws. And hold on, you know what I said civil laws? It should really be the breaking of any law.
Yeah.
Any legal infraction is crime. But the thing about it is that, is it indictable? Right? It's most indictable when it's a civil law. When a child breaks a law at home, we don't call it crime. All right? But it's the root of crime. Because you see a child, for example, kick the dog. And you know what we say as parents? Don't worry. He is going to grow that out. Grow what out? You mean grow it in. Right? If we don't get a hold of him right now, right? So we have that kind of infractions in there. We have breaking of home laws and school laws where we have counselors and stuff to talk to them. And notice that doesn't get to the court.
So all this, when you speak about these things that happen at home, these things that happen at school, I'm sure later on we'll talk about how this influence crime in the country. So you've been in St. Lucia for a few days. You've had many consultations with different individuals. What is the feel on the ground? How serious would you consider the crime situation in St. Lucia?
Well, it is serious. It is serious. I mean, let's face it. We are just a little halfway past the year. I mean, just a little past halfway of the year. You have 37 homicides here. And the most celebratory part of the year is not even on us yet, right? And that's the time you look for more crime. And you have 36, right? If we don't do something about that, we could end the year with 70, 80, right? So the question is it really serious? Dr. Chitan, did you hear just as the 45th president of the United States call it fake news? Is it fake news? Well, I want to let you know it's not fake news. Because I personally, and Pastor here, we visited a home where a lady showed us a bullet hole in her glass. Right? I've been hearing, I didn't see it, but I've been hearing, in the View for Church, they found shells in the church. In that area, there is a street where gangs fire each other from either side of the street.
Pastor Alfred, you have that similar experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't experience it myself, but the church members reported it when after there were the episodes of shooting. Right? Yes, I came to the church because as a counselor to do the debriefing, right. And that's when they reveal what happened. And it's not even only once; there are several times that gun has gone through.
Wow.
I mean, shots have gone through the building.
So.
Yeah.
Crime is a serious issue in St. Lucia, but what if we do not take crime seriously? What happens?
Yeah, it will come at our doorsteps. Because listen to me, if we do not take crime seriously, remember crime is almost infectious, it's going to spread. When people see that it is not being addressed or the perpetrators are not caught, it gives people a license, it emboldens them. And especially with the system that we have, where it seems, notice my words, where it seemed as if justice is delayed, then people take it in their hands to do the things. In fact,
vigilante justice.
Right. And the Bible, I think Ecclesiastes speaks to that.
Wherever justice is not executed speedily, then people are emboldened to commit the crimes. Yeah.
Wow, man. So we're looking at men being singled out as the ones involved in crime. Is that a true reflection?
Let me answer that one because Doug will be more profound than I am. When you look at, I want to say it this way, there are different categories of crime, but men are more involved in violent crimes than women. In fact, I mean the prison population speaks to it. For example, Bodily at present, it has maybe about 500 and maybe 14 thereabout prisoners, right?
Yes.
And out of these, only 14 are women.
15 are women.
15 are women, about that, right? And the majority are men. So, you can see that there's a disproportion between the sexes as far as crime is concerned, and most of them who are there for violent crimes. Now, of course, there are other kinds of crimes that are perpetrated on women, or women are victims of those, like domestic violence and some of those, okay? They are committed against women to a larger degree. More women are victims of that kind of crime. But for more violent crimes, more men are victims and perpetrators of that crime.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Doc, your
Well, you know what, my brother, I sometimes wonder, we see nature films, and people go chasing in Africa endangered species. I'm suggesting that the male might be on the endangered species list. And when you look at the sociology behind it, when you look at all the dysfunctions behind what drives that, right? You would see, not only that, when you look at the neuroscience behind it, and today I was on the Andre Paul show, and I actually explained that. When you see that, you understand why a man is more vulnerable, or is more susceptible. That's a better word, to committing crimes, right? Or violent crimes. Because the word crime is a full category, as Pastor said. I mean, you have white collar crimes that have been done, and pardoned, by the way, blue collar crimes that don't end up in bodily, right? But when you look at the average girl on the street, when you speak to them, and by the way, I was in there twice for the weekend, and I actually spoke to them. And you hear who these guys are. They put their head on your shoulder and they want to cry, because when you hear the stories that they've been through, what brought them here is unbelievable. So we have to take make a direct attempt on impacting the decision making of our boys.
Yeah, let me just mention and what Doc said there. There are a number of factors that drive crime, and the way men react to them, to these experiences and developmental issues, are totally different from the way women. Because women often, although when we say that, that doesn't mean that they are not exceptions, right? But women generally internalize the challenges that they experience in life. They are upset, they are frustrated, but these are internalized. Men don't handle it that way. Men explode. They get angry, they get frustrated, and they vent out and they do things. Okay? So, of course, and as Doc might explain to you, because of the way men are wired, men are wired in a sense to be defenders. And they often mask their fears and their frustration, okay, through anger. Okay, let me put it another way. If a lion is coming at you and your wife is present with you and your children, you will not just run away. You will try to defend. But you are afraid of the lion too. So how do you tackle the lion? You mask your fears and your vulnerability with anger to cancel your threat. So that's how men handle it. A woman might scream and fly, but a man will mask his fears and challenge what is before him to cancel that threat. Okay, so they are wired differently. They handle situations differently. So whereas women will internalize it, men will challenge it and come out with aggression to deal with it.
So you're saying that this is the way men respond is a natural way of
yes, it's natural.
So the issue now is, how do you help the man manage that?
That's
yes,
correct.
well, that's Doc's purview here. That is where you have to teach people impulse control.
That's correct.
Maybe the stop and think, as he might explain it to you. So at the end of the day, you cannot. Somebody will get angry. Okay, you will be challenged. You might face threats and challenges, right? And then the way you're going to deal with this, okay, your natural instinct might be to attack, to do this. But you have to do not allow the lower nature to control the higher nature. So that's where you have to teach people impulse control, you know, how to stop and how to de-escalate and a number of things. But Doc has, you know, he's mastered that and he will be able to share with you.
Maybe I can ask Doc that question. At what point, because we're talking about teaching men before they commit the crime. So where do we teach these things and at what point do we start teaching them?
Okay, beautiful. We start teaching these things in the home. In the home. You see, I brought to St. Lucia. Well, I did bring to St. Kitts too. My copyrighted framework, right, for sustainable crime reduction. Right. It's called the EDER, E-D-E-R. Right. And of course, every letter has its meaning. The E stands for enforcement. Now, my brother, most time when you hear the word enforcement, police take it and say, that's ours. Yes. Don't mess with it, that's
law enforcement.
Law enforcement, that is. And security guards and what have you, all law enforcement. They think that's theirs. But my brother, the word enforcement, the active word in enforcement is force. Mm-hmm. Who wants to be forced? Mm-hmm. Don't you realize the more you apply force, is the worse it becomes, mm-hmm. right? So what we do, a matter of fact, I want to let the law enforcers realize mm-hmm. that they are only the third level of enforcement.
You said third level.
Third.
So there are two levels
right.
before them. Yes.
The first level is the home. Right? And ladies and gentlemen that listen to us, I have no doubt that the stats look very dim when it comes to the nuclear family. Quite a lot of our children are born to single parents. Right? And that's something we will talk about hopefully sometimes, right? But if mom, and that's you alone, mom, or mom and dad cannot create boundaries. I don't want to use the word rules. Boundaries at home, right? And help the child in a pleasant way. Don't come hard as yet, ma'am. In a pleasant way to appreciate boundaries mm-hmm. and to comply to boundaries. Then what's going to happen is that we'll be exporting a bunch of lawbreakers mm-hmm. or rebels, if you want to say that sounds hard, right. into high school.
So the first, when you talk about crime reduction, we're talking about starting in the home.
Come on, my brother.
So every home is a crime reduction unit.
Agent.
A crime reduction agent. Right.
Yes. Every single one. So, right? So mama, dad, you make it or break it, you know, right there. Yeah. Right there. Because if we could teach our children, and you know, sometimes we see children, even in church, let's talk church too. Yeah. That's so violent and so lawless and so ruthless. Doesn't it reflect on the home? Who do you say, oh, that's Sister Andrew's son? It reflects on what the home looked like, right? And then I pray there is no Sister Andrew in La Bay, right? But, so what happened is that if mom and dad or mom, whoever it is, or dad alone, sometimes they're single fathers, throw up their hands in there and say, well, I mean, and I said it a while ago, you kick the dog, you see the child is violent, you see a temper tantrum and they hurt somebody, and you say, don't worry.
He'll grow out of it.
They'll grow out of it. You mean they'll grow it in. And then tomorrow they move into high school. You export that into high school. Then what happens? The teacher would have a very hard time helping that child to comply with the laws of the school. And I tell students already over and over, what is a high school? It's a microcosm of society. Right? The principal, the teachers might be the city councilors, I don't know. Right? The security guard or might be the police. And if you cannot live law-abiding in the school, we are almost sure you wouldn't do that outside. But let's say they have a problem, and then guess what happened? How do we solve that problem? And I got a real problem, because I think you're a high school teacher, brother. All right? What do? We suspend them.
Or expel them.
Expel them. Well, suspension come first and expulsion.
Yes.
And what is suspension? We send them home for 2 weeks based on the nature of the crime. Mm-hmm. Right? How do you, I don't want to put it on you, but mm-hmm. how do you as a teacher, I was a teacher too, and I'm sure Doc was a teacher. Mm-hmm. How do we as educators tell a child that education is important? Mm-hmm. and because of a behavior that you have not diagnosed, you see, we jump in the gun, we get to diagnose, have not diagnosed, send the child for home for 2 weeks. Do you know that Metro Police, which I've worked with in Toronto, they actually told me, a senior official told me, that 42.5% of the juveniles we arrest on the streets of Toronto have been on suspension because there's nobody to monitor them. What are we doing? We send them home to perfect that act that got them suspended, right?
So in essence, the system that we have enables criminality. That's in essence that we say.
I'm saying that. I'm saying that.
Our system is failing us because
us.
instead of helping us curb crime, we are enabling.
We're enabling.
Enabling crime.
And of course, when that boy he gets suspended, you think he's happy about it? He's come back angry still, you know. He did not work on that act during the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No, he was having fun.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
I love what you said there because really the suspension should have been not only move him away, but also there should have been attempt to rehabilitate.
Right,
But
diversion
who is
program.
Rehabilitating him.
Who's
The parents
supervising him?
Supervising, and because you would need more than supervision, you would need more than keeping him away. Right. Who is helping him develop the skills to overcome the challenges created the problem in the first place?
Come on, Doc.
So we need to equip our parents so that even when that kind of situation happens, they know how to deal with it.
So you're saying, Doc, that even when the child you reach a situation where your child is suspended, that there should be something in place.
Yes.
And even if there's not something in place, perhaps you can find a way to put something in place for your child. Don't just leave the child unsupervised at home and just sitting there for the time to finish.
Unsupervised and untrained. Because if I have created, part of discipline is intended to equip you with skills so that there is not a repeat of the situation.
Right.
But when you suspend the child unsupervised, the child did not receive help to overcome the challenges, at least to come to terms with what they have done, to own, and become responsible. What are you doing?
Yeah. You give them more room to practice it more. But we have to top this off, the suspension thing. So you asked me, what do we do about it? Well, currently in Grenada, in my facility, I run a full training center, right? And that training center has rooms, right? And wash and bathroom facility and everything. And my office is right there, right? So children that are suspended could come and spend a week with me, right? Or they could take, if you live within close proximity, take the bus back and forth. And we actually do sessions. No, in Toronto, what did we do? We, through my initiative, we started the in-school suspension program, right? So there is a room designated where these, because you still need to take them away from the environment, right? Where we ran an intervention team, right? Where the intervention team will now come in, right, and work with that child. Still get his work done, sent to that class, but he actually go through a process. Right?
So I'm looking at the EIDA program here. So enforcement, and I'm noticing that we're speaking about diagnostic as well, in terms of what is the issue, what is the problem, what is the situation, what are you facing, and the way we can maneuver and help you navigate to a better place.
Right.
That's.
And by the way, parents, you don't have to have a bachelor's to do that. Huh? I mean, it might be favoritism at home. It might be I know I'm talking about here.
Right.
I've been the victim of that, right? Favoritism at home, and it caused you to lash out, right? So parents must be honest, objective, because they're the adults, right? And say, you know what, I get it. I've been treating that child differently, right? That's diagnosed, and that's the dean, the EIDA, right? Teachers must be able to do that too.
Right.
And when a teacher see a child's acting up, you don't say, boy, that boy again. No. I wonder what's happening with him. Pull him over. Come here. Is everything okay? You may get more out of him and get a clue as to what's happening with him, so you could actually start some form of treatment, right, for him.
In fact, we can say that anytime you see somebody hurting another person, you can always be sure that they themselves have been hurting or they have been hurt. And what you are seeing really is a hurting person hurting others.
So in our eyes, what we see is not what we see. We have to look beyond the situation, beyond the situation itself.
Yes.
And our listeners and our viewers here this evening, that this is an individual thing that we each can do, right? In whichever place that you work, you can make a contribution to the crime reduction by reaching out, right? Not thinking that this is just a troublesome person, or this is but reaching out to the person, to the individual who's hurting. So,
So, but I think I should magnify that a little bit. Everybody should take responsibility to supervise, guide, and to counsel and help. But I also believe that we need to do some training with our parents and persons who handle children, because they need to be retooled, because some of the traditional, I don't even want to call it skills, some of the traditional approaches that we have cannot fit this generation. This generation has gone ahead of us, and the way they think and the way they understand and analyze situations are so far different from what maybe, those of us, baby boomers and so on, the way we process information is so different. And if you're going to use those old techniques that we learned for the baby boomers to use for generation X's or generation Z and even Alpha, it will not work.
So, Pastor, can you read a book? Can you look at something on YouTube? Will that be
helpful? It's helpful.
So, in essence, yes, we need the program, but we ourselves can find ways to educate ourselves.
Responsible parenting.
And because you can be everywhere, Dr. Chitan, you can be everywhere. The government can be everywhere, but we ourselves, when we see a problem, we need help, we can seek help through different avenues.
That is correct.
Different avenues.
But I want to talk about that D a little more on a national level.
Yes.
That because this is more in the home. And the D there, what we've suggested, what we've done successfully, Grenada and St. Kitts, right? We've actually held a symposium, a national symposium, right? Where we bring all the interest groups together, professional interest groups, and lay people too, by the way. So we have all the educators, we bring them in, cross-section, all the clergy, right? Psychologists, sociologists, mental health workers, law enforcers, doctors,
magistrates.
As we say in the Patwa, Tutmun. Is that in place?
Yes.
Man, I feel like a Lucian, right? I feel like a Lucian, right? And we bring them in the interest group. And then at that point in time, I would now disseminate information on 12 psychosocial roots that I have found. And people said to me, well, how...
When you say psychosocial roots, I want the listeners and viewers to understand, you're saying that the root cause of crime.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. Or the roots that feed crime.
Right. So there are 12 roots
12
that you have examined.
That I have found.
That you have found.
There may be other roots that you found.
Right.
But I'm telling you, if I'm working internationally,
right?
These roots, and every time I go to a country, they say, but Dr. Chitan, are they relevant? I say, come, let's talk about it. And when they leave, they say, whoa, you were bang on. Because this didn't come by chance, right? Came through a process of elimination. We do studies in a way, that kind of way, right? And so when I present those 12 roots in the first part of the symposium, then the different interest groups, the clergy say, okay, this root is most germane to our profession.
Right.
They recognize which, they identify which one, right? Now, for example, it might be poverty, all right? And they might say, you know what, I think what we could do, they would now go in the interest groups, in the wrong tables. They would choose one, let's say Dr. Alfred is chosen to be the head. And he's going to have that discussion. It's not talk shop, it's workshop.
Right.
We are going to figure, how do we tackle poverty? What are the basic needs of humans, right? Food, clothing, shelter. Okay, so you know what? We're going to do this. This is a short-term plan in 3 months. And why do I say 3 months? Couldn't it be 6 months? No, man, we need to start right now.
Yes.
Right? So 3 months, then 6 months we would have done that. In a year we would have done that. Now, every interest group does that. Teachers do that, and everybody does that. Now, once that is set up, then take all that information. Because you see, when Chitan say he comes to your country, Chitan is not saying he's the master of the plan. He's saying that there are brilliant people in St. Lucia, excellent plans.
Yes.
But if we could bring all these plans together
Yes.
to make them target specific, we probably accomplish more, right?
Yes.
So now, this is where this document come out, and I have it, and I brought it so you could actually see it. I mean, I know your camera may not have to pick it up, but I wanted to at least show you that there is a document. So in St. Kitts, after that symposium, the Ministry of National Security now takes all the worksheets, collate them together into this book,
document, yes.
and create their national crime strategy. Now, when this is done, this could be shelved and never be lifted again. So they now appoint an implementer. I don't want to use the word enforcer, but that would go out and hold them, the fire to the feet.
Accountable.
So they will go now to pastor and say, Doc, you said in your document that in 3 months you're doing that. Where are you with the plan? Do you need help? Right? And hold, that's what it is in St. Kitts and Nevis. That's what we could boast, not me. We together could boast 81% drop.
So what you have begun in St. Lucia, you have started something like that in St. Lucia.
Well, I've sold the idea, right? I mean, yesterday we had a big. I've been talking about it from day one, from the time I landed. But yesterday we had a consultation.
Right.
At the big gardens,
right.
And we had some very important people.
Right.
Mr. Ben Emmanuel, the cabinet chair, was secretary was there. Joachim Henry, minister, he was there.
Equity, yes.
Mr. Sepal, CEO or acting CEO, was there.
Right.
We brought some key people in, right? But not all that, we've explained that also the prime minister.
Right.
We've been actually in his office.
So work has been done in order for us to get to that point where we actually put our minds together and get our feet on the ground so that we can start.
That is correct. And my friend, an acceptance of the plan. The plan seemed to have overwhelming acceptance, but where do we get the finance to run it? Right, where we get the finance to run it. And so I'm talking to somebody out there. If for some reason you got $1 billion in your bank account, please see this guy here, right?
Yeah, I must tell you too that one of the things that have warmed my heart towards Dr. Chitan's visit here is that he has not just come and sat behind a desk and just spoken to people. He has gone into the community and literally touched base with some of the persons that we consider to be challenged individuals and talk with them. And they have understood his approach and what he's trying to do. And they are asking him, in fact, they are
challenge him.
In fact, they're asking him if he's going to come back to really do the things, or is it that he's just mentioning there and he's going to disappear because they need it. They are asking, literally begging him to come in.
Is that the kind of approach that we need from our leaders, that they would go out and mingle with the people and find out?
Definitely.
Is that what we can?
Definitely, but more than leaders, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a leader in his community. We got to get her behind the podium. We got to stop this thing, man, and go out in the community. The young men looking for, Doc, you saw the hugs I got.
Yes, yep.
They need to hug you. You need to take out this jacket so they can hug you, man. Right? And let me quickly give you one. Saturday was the big march in Vieux-Fort. Yeah. Right? When we got back to the place where we had the speeches, right. I was on stage speaking.
I saw that.
Okay? While I was speaking, there was a young man.
Yes.
Came right back. You saw that?
I saw that.
All right. Yeah. He wanted to say something to me.
Yes.
I said, hold on. Just respect me. Let me finish this. I'll talk to you. Yeah. He wanted to stop at the imposter. I made sure I saved one for him. Mm-hmm. And when I was finished, I went down to talk to him. Mm-hmm. He said to me, ask him who he was. He gave me his name. I wouldn't disclose here. Mm, yes. And I asked him how old he was. He told me 44 years old. Yes. And then I realized he was semi-inebriated. But I said, you know what, let me talk to this guy. He said to me, sir, could you help me, please? I said, what do you want help for? He said, I told my girlfriend and my 2 children I was going to bring back dinner. Yes. And I don't have anything to bring for them. I said, what are you looking at? He said, I need a tin of corned beef and I need a pack of quicks, the 3-pack quicks. Right, yeah. I said to him, okay, let's walk down the street. By that time, we had our Seventh-day Adventist marchers waiting for the transportation on all sides of the street. And they probably said, oh my God, where is he taking Dr. Chitan now? Dr. Chitan don't know the place? Isn't he putting himself at risk? Right? But that's how we do our work. That's how we do our work. Walked down with him, went to the bank, took out the money. I had cash on me, bigger denominations, but I didn't want to just leave $100 bill in the guy's hand. So I went, took out $20, and I went to this corner store. I bought him his corned beef, and I bought him his, and we're on the way back.
Right.
As we're on our way back, he said to me, sir, if I did not get this, I may have had to do something stupid tonight to get it.
You save someone's life.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so I asked him, well, tell me a little about yourself. He said to me, sir, I worked for the county or?
Council.
The council.
Right.
He spoke well, even if he was half drunk. Very, very well. So I said to him, tell me, what happened? He said to me, I work for the council, and my 17-year-old son was killed. All right? And then my mother died 1 month after. He said, so I was broken. I didn't used to drink before, but that was my way of medicating. This is my way of dealing with it. And I got into a cycle, and those of us who understand compulsion, and so a downward cycle, and here I am. He said, I wish I had a phone to give my number.
So you can talk to
Would you come back and look for me? I said, bro, give me your name. That's all I want. I'm coming to View Fort with a microphone and shout at your name and say, where do you live? I'm coming to look for you and your children. You see what I'm saying? Bro, that's the hurt that people feel. That's the hurt that people feel. And it's time to get out there and do some education. That's the next E, by the way. That's the next E.
Right. So we have enforcement, which you spoke about, and which you can do at home, we can do at school. It's not just the police.
At a national level.
At a national level with the police officers. We spoke about diagnostic, which means that we've had to find out what the root cause of the problem is. And of course, education, teaching.
Yes, and that education, you see, when we use the term education, that is why I've used the word education, but on a national level, right?
Right.
Because that education is meant to
Develop.
For people like you, for people like that, right? Because, you know, that's big term. But the word education, when you talk to a second chance on the road, you say education, you frustrate the boy. Because he sees in his mind, oh gosh, the periodic table. This X, you know, what is X about? Like I said to you, I don't even know your wife. You ask me to find your X, right? You know what I'm saying? And it frustrates him. The education we're talking about is a different education. Something, and if you are following me in the prison side, you will see that. How simply you take a nice story and teach them concepts. Teach them concepts. You got to be exciting. You got to be motivated. You got to be inspirational. You got to go for the heart, right? And so that's education. And that's where our stop and think concept comes in. Right? Because this is our flagship. Now, at the root of our flagship is the poster. Always stop and think before you proceed. Now, my brother, we want to make it as simple so that even a child can understand it. So when we go to the street light, a child knows what that means. He knows the red always means stop.
So stop means, red means
the
stop.
Red. The amber, the yellow means think.
Right?
And the green means proceed. When we're dealing with kindergartens, we don't say proceed, we say go.
Yes.
Right? We say go, right? Now, what we've done with this, and notice it always, because my friends out there, why always? The day you didn't stop, you may have to pay.
Yeah.
Maybe the day you pay, right? So we've created a psychological pause mechanism here.
So when do you use that strategy? Let's say on a normal basis. Can you give us an example of when I would need to use that strategy on a normal basis?
You need to use that every day. A taxi man that's trying to cut off somebody needs that. Someone come and curse your mother, you need that. Someone in the classroom, let's go right there, and the boy challenges you.
Right.
And you want to knock his teeth off. Right. Or tell him something to really deflate his ego.
So at that time you stop?
That's the time you stop. But how do you stop? You only stop when you could think about what am I doing, right? Oh, well, no. That's the thinking part. What stops you? We teach the physiology of this, right? So we teach you what happens physiologically when you get angry, right? When I'm getting angry, my face gets hot, my hands get sweaty. Your body is telling you you're getting angry, man.
So when your body tells you that you're angry, and you start reacting in a situation that you should not starting to react, then you have to.
Then you know. That's when you press the button, right? But you push yourself in that park situation to do what? To think. What do you think about? You think about, well, I'm doing CXCs, my gosh, I might be in jail for that, right? I might lose my girlfriend, I might lose my child, I might lose my job, you know? Or you think about, oh my gosh, the consequences. I can't sit in a jail for 15 years, right? How that would impact you before you proceed. Now, notice, my friend, I did not say stop and think and do the right thing. Guys, I don't control anybody. If you decide you're going to fight, be prepared to stand the consequences, right? And we've taken this, we've taken this at every level, but where we've done the best with it is in the communities. So let's go in there, all right? We've created a whole program. Project Stop and Think, as you read in the bio, is a 3-month program. We've just done it extremely successful in Grenada, right? We went to a community like Fluache, right? A similar community. Kind of a ghetto community. Well, that's what they call themselves. I'm not labeling them. Where boys were on the street doing nothing, high school dropout. That particular community in Grenada was known by police as the crime spot. We went in there, and we got the head honcho, drug dealer. Because what is he doing? He's supplying drugs to the boys because they don't have jobs. They need to live. Right. They want a Nike, he gets them. They want an iPhone 13, he gets them. He's influential. So we worked through him. And you should see what happened. We had 43 graduates at the end, right? Shouting, stop and think. Not only that, in the community, we put a big billboard up. They're proud. Their name's on the billboard, you know? When they stand by a billboard, after they graduate, they stand by the billboard now or somewhere close by and they want to curse a bad word. I say, hey, you can't name up that guy. Can't name up there. Right? You see what I'm saying? So it's a powerful community initiative. And since we had a church forum, the church could get involved.
Yeah, let me also mention, Doc, because as I saw how you dealt with it, one of the things I picked up is that some of the people whom you label as bad and wicked, they have great leadership skills. And some of these people are very intelligent. They may be, in fact, for you to be able to do a number of these things, you must have some gray matter, right? And it's just that these resources are being used in an adverse way. But you can teach people how to use these very same skills, okay, in a productive way. Like, let's say that man who is almost like a patriot or, you know, have fatherly skills, right? Paternal skills, because they're like the father for the community. What about if this person has a business and employing other persons? Okay? So you see, you can bring some of those very same skills you have into productive use. And what we need to do is to help these people change from getting engaged in risky, dangerous behaviors to more productive behaviors.
Yeah, and what Pastor said there, matter of fact, we have a living example in that same community in Grenada, right? Because after they graduate and they're feeling so good. You see, brother, social empowerment is a good thing. But with poor or low economic or financial foundation, they're going right back. Yeah. Because what they like what we say, they understand it, but they have a child to support, and the woman is saying you are deadbeat dad, so he smokes his weed. He sells his weed to bring money home. So what did we do? In that community, we actually started a concrete block making factory, right? We went to a corporate person. We said we want a ransom, you know those mixing things? Right? We want the molds. Right. The gentleman said, hey, I'll give you guys I got a truck, 2 loads of material, if it's a community development. And we find a spot, we put up a shed, and we start making blocks, giving these guys employment. Guess who is the boss? The drug dealer. Right? Because he has his skills. The former drug dealer. I mean, sorry about the former drug dealer, right? No, he has his skills. He had a boat trafficking drugs from St. Vincent to Grenada. He sold the boat. You know that when a tradesman sells his equipment, he's finished with trade. And he's not running it.
So that is beautiful. That's a beautiful example of what we can do in our communities. And we all can chip in, right? and there is something that we can do. That we can't just stay there idly by and say that, I can't do anything about this situation. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones who are going to pay, and our children are going to pay if we don't do what we are supposed to do. The last one, which is rehabilitation. Tell us about that one.
That's so important. You see, if we reach a third level of enforcement, and the police is involved, there's a good chance remand comes into play, right? Now, remand is innocent until found guilty.
Yes.
But at the same time, because we worried about you, we got to make sure we have you in, right? Now, the human being was not meant to live in a cage, right? And as I told you earlier on, my neighbors have 2 monkeys in a cage. And they shake the cage and throw it down and got away. Because if monkeys don't want to be in cage, we put humans in cage. Now, however, there are times we have to do that. Now, taking a human freedom away from them breaks their spirit. It could either be positive or very negative.
Right.
How can it be positive? If we engage a rehabilitation strategy. So the truth about it is that mommy was talking to the boy, let's say a male. Daddy was talking to him, uncle was talking to him, he's not listening. As we say, he's on the highway, he's on the fast lane.
Right.
Teacher talking to me, he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop and think. He wouldn't stop and think. Well then, as I say, if you don't stop and think, they will stop you.
Yes.
So he's now stopped.
Right.
You see, we couldn't talk to him. He wasn't hearing us because he was speeding. Now, he's a captive audience. Why do you think on Sabbath gone, so many people responded to altar call? Because they have to sit there and listen.
Yes,
They're hearing the message.
They didn't have a choice.
They don't have a choice. And sometimes when you don't give them a choice, they hear better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's important to engage rehabilitative strategies that would deal, and it has to be so well structured because there are so many different criminal elements and crimes. It must address them. Because you know what our mantra is? For rehabilitation, turning menaces into mentors.
Right.
And I told them, I said, look, if I were to go in a community and say how it feels to be, please don't do that because you end up in jail. It doesn't feel good. They're going to ask me, have you ever been there?
Yeah, so you need someone with that experience to share that experience.
You get it.
With others.
You get it. So take that mantra. Turning menaces into mentors.
So we've listened to the IDA program, that is for enforcement, diagnostic, education, and rehabilitation. And not only can we do that at a national level, but we can also do that at our home level.
That's correct.
At the school level and our community level as well. In fact, we should not wait on the country to do it. We can do it at home and contribute to crime reduction at home. Now, Dr. Chitan, sometimes when you speak about rehabilitation, some persons will tell you, I want justice for my family.
Yeah.
This rehabilitation thing is not sitting well with me. You're giving this person a better life and I've lost my child.
The truth about it, that feeds revenge. That feeds revenge because, and by the way, folks, justice is a part of God. I mean, the Bible says in Micah 6:8, I've shown thee, O man, what is good. Good is a derivative of God, right? And what does the Lord require of thee? What's going to hold you? And the first one is to do justly. That's justice, right? Yeah. So when people are asking for justice, I don't blame them. There are 2 ways of seeking justice: vigilante justice, and when you take on yourself to launch vigilante justice. Notice something, that revenge is always harsher than the initial crime.
And it can start a cycle.
And it start a cycle, right? It could be multiple people involved, right?
And that's the situation that we face in St. Lucia now,
yes.
Where one set of persons take another life, the other party, the other gang comes back, and
right.
then we have people in between who pay the price as
exactly.
well.
And at what point in time does it end?
Right.
Right. So this cycle continues, and that's what is feeding the crime.
And the vigilante justice is what feeding the crime, of course. The other kind of justice now, of course, is taking it to the law, to the judicial system, right? But the question is, if your son is killed or your daughter is killed, would it make you feel better if that individual has to serve 25 years in jail, right? It may make you feel better, right? But that's something that live with you forever. You know somebody's in jail, and if you get happy, if you keep on getting happier about this, right? And you cannot look at the root and say, "Oh my, I wonder what he did." You see, there comes a time when the grief has a process,
right? Yes.
And when you would have reached a point of acceptance, right? During that process, you cannot irrational, right? There's the ups and the downs, right? But when you reach a point of acceptance, you start cognizing a little more. No, would you want to see that person be buried too? Or would you want to see that person be in jail? Like one lady I told you about in California, what did she do? Somebody killed her son, a guy shot her son, right? She went to court. She heard the guy. She heard as his defense lawyer pleaded his case with all the social dysfunction he went through and felt sorry for the boy. He was given 20 years in jail, but she found herself visiting him. At the end of the day, this boy was her replacement son. This is unbelievable forgiveness. And sometimes we have to engage forgiveness, because forgiveness is the only thing that would free us.
Yes, let me just elaborate just one little thing here. I want us to recognize that the feeling for revenge is generally natural when something just happened.
Right.
Okay? If somebody kills your mother there, boy, listen to me, you are nice, you're a Christian, you have been preaching, but in your head, the first thing is this fella has to die.
Yes.
Huh? It's natural, that's the instinct. But then now, when you calm down, and if, listen to me, right, if you see you had a knife or a gun in your hand,
at that time,
you're doing something.
You probably would do it, yeah.
But listen, all of us are potential for the jail, you know,
That's
if
right.
we don't stop and process.
As a matter of fact, many of us have done this same thing. We have stopped and we have thought about it, and that's why we are still not. We are still free.
Exactly. So grief goes through a process. The first reaction is a feeling of revenge because you're in pain and your body is not processing the situation. But as you process the situation and then you go through the grief process properly, you'll come to the point where you now recognize that the person who has done what they have done, they are also hurting people who never got the help that they needed. And there is a feeling of empathy and the exhibition of grace towards that individual to give them a second opportunity to pull themselves together. Not that justice, not that they must not serve the time, not that they must not be restrained to the point that they will understand the pain that they have caused and take more responsible behavior. All of that is part of justice. But at the same time, your approach and the way you think about that is going to be far different when you process your pain than if you had not.
Yeah, but let's look at institutionalized rehabilitation, right? We get it locked away now. And I said earlier on, they know a captive audience, right? Because remember, bro, if in the heat of the moment you cannot stop and think, you will stop and think.
Right. Yes.
It just happened that you would have given up your freedom away. Right. You're now locked down in a cell. And when do you think more than when you're locked down in a cell?
That's the time.
Right?
That's the time.
And you start regretting, right? So at that point in time, it becomes very necessary, of paramount importance, that we now go in there and we do these therapeutic session where we look at what are the root causes. Why did this boy behave that way? When we do our assessments, when we do our quizzing, what family did you come from? What did you do in school? What was your frustration? How many times were you suspended? Because what we really try to do, guys, is a track record of that boy. And then we say, you know what, man, I could kind of help you here as to why you did this, right? No, I don't know everything. I don't know the human heart. But based on what you showed me, right? I know I must now engage therapies to help him overcome that, so that when the time comes that he gets out, recidivism is not even part of his life.
Just before we end, I have a quotation that I want to read, and I want your reaction for this quotation. It's taken from Christ Object Lesson, page 254, paragraph 2. And those who are listening and viewing can hear this quotation. I found it very interesting. It says, "The only remedy for sin and sorrows of men is Christ. The gospel of his grace alone can cure the evils that curse society. The injustice of the rich towards the poor, the hatred of the poor towards the rich alike have the root in selfishness, and this can be eradicated only through submission of Christ. He alone." What do you think about that? The remedy for
it's
all
Christ.
this
It's Christ. And I have no doubts. But here's how I want you to understand them. Okay? The gospel has different parts to it. There's what we may call the fiat. Okay? Let me say, a good way to put it is, let us say if an individual, okay, is a smoker. Let us say he's an addict. All right? He comes to God and asks God. He recognizes he's powerless. He comes to God and asks God for deliverance. He exercises his faith in God, and God takes away from him the desire. Now remember that it can work different ways, right? I just want you to understand.
Yes.
There's the fiat, and there's also the step process where Christ himself heal instantly, and there are times he used other means to achieve the healing. All right, I want you to be aware of that. So you now get the let us say you get a fiat. God takes away the desire from you. A miracle is performed, and he takes away the desire from you. You have to be re-educated. Remember what the Bible talks about submission. You know what submission means? I have my fleshly desires, which will tell me to do this and do that.
Right.
But I must learn now to surrender my own desires and wishes for the will of Christ. Listen to me. I'm not sure if people have understood this. You know, sometimes we make Christianity is looked at too much from the superficial level, and we only look at the fiat aspect, and we do not look at the submission aspect. It is really a re-education of the individual to live the life of Christ. You know, that's why Paul speaks about living your life within me. I must die daily so that you can live out your life within me. So that is a lot of what should I call it? There's a lot of restraint here. You know, okay, that only the Spirit of God can help you to execute. But there is discipline that must be exercised, but under the power of the Holy Spirit. Because discipline without the Holy Spirit can be short-lived. But discipline under, the power of the Holy Spirit can make it lifelong.
Let me go to
and that's it.
Now,
That's
the reason
important.
why, the reason that is important, because a lot of persons do not respect counseling. They do not respect the work that the psychologists have to do with individuals. They do not respect that. They think it's just the preaching of the word, but they do not delve into the deeper issues that some of these people face. But we have to be able to not just preach the gospel, but go in and find out the nitty-gritty of the issues. That's why I wanted
Just
to
before
remember.
Doc
let me show you that.
Just
Go ahead.
Okay, just before Doc talks, here's what I want you to look at. What we sometimes refer in theology as forensic and imputations. All right, impartation, imputation. Here's how it works. Here's a gentleman who is a drug addict, right? He's sentenced. I'm his bigger brother, right? And let us say they charge him $500,000. Let's say so.
Right.
Okay, I'm a multi-billionaire.
Right.
Okay, I paid the charge.
Right.
Is my brother, has that stopped him from being an addict?
No.
Does he need rehabilitation?
He needs it.
Does he need
needs help.
help to be able to overcome it?
Right.
Well, Christ has paid our sins. Okay, we are declared just by the bills being paid. Okay, but there's still a work to be done. That's why Martin Luther speaks of it as simultus justus el peccator. You are saved and sinner at the same time. So God pay your debt. but you still have the bad habit. That habit now has to be overcome through the re-education of the gospel and through the power of the Holy Spirit that restrains you and allows you to practice that which is acceptable.
I just want to quickly hop on the illustration he made, because I know of a personal experience, right? A middle-aged man in Grenada got baptized in this crusade.
Right.
The man was a chain smoker,
Right.
right? But he believes in the message he heard.
Right.
And he got baptized, and he's hoping that when he buries in the water, all his addiction and compulsion will go. But of course, let's be real here,
progress.
right? He comes up, and the church is happy for him.
Right.
He comes to church, and he meets the preservation that we Seventh-day Adventists are known for. How do we preserve the people?
Right.
We give them an office. We say, you know what, this man probably can make
him to
it.
work, put him to work.
If you put him to work,
He will stay.
he'll be okay, right? So they put this man to work. Really nice man. Give him a little deacon badge.
Yes.
He's so proud to walk through the town of Grenville on Sabbath, dressed nice with a deacon badge. One day he's coming through the park where he passes every day, and the craving came back. I don't know if he smelled the smoke or what. Craving came back. In those days, you could buy one cigarette. He went and he bought a cigarette, and he smoked it. Somebody was coming to church, saw the man smoking, hurried to church, and told the elder. When the poor brother in church, they pulled his badge away from him. Instead of helping him, said, you know what, bro, you had an issue there. Let me help you. Pull the badge. No, if they had said, let me pray with you, that's more empathetic.
And find out what
Yeah, but you led down the church
in
in public. Pull the badge, right? We've lost him. We've lost him. So, my brother, I mean, what I like about what we do is that we go into the communities, we deal with all these issues, and then we tag the church and say, hey, stop and think. These guys know how to make good decisions now. Hey, introduce them to Jesus. They will make a good decision.
Right.
And when they come in, they would have dealt with a lot of issues. I'm not saying all.
Yeah.
Some major issues. Give their heart to the Lord.
Final comments, Pastor
Yeah,
Alfred?
well, I believe, as I look at what Dr. Chitan is doing and what I am passionate about, I see it as the work Christ did. When Christ came upon earth, the Bible said that he mingled. Well, at least the Bible showed that Christ went into the communities and touched base with the people. I love Ellen White's commentary on it. He mingled with the people as one who desired the good.
Yes.
Okay, and here's, notice some of the people that Christ associated with, you know.
We know
That's why
them.
they call him, they accuse him as the friend of sinners, you know.
Yes, that's
because
what it
the
is.
people, when they said the friends of sinners, they were thinking of him as being friends of the prostitutes and all of the rogues
The
and
vials of society.
Right. But then he saw these people as people to be rescued. And Christ placed his life on the line, his reputation on the line to pull these
What
people
did he
out.
say? I did not come to save the righteous.
Righteous.
He came for them.
Exactly.
These are the people that he associated with.
And we must imitate the life of Jesus. It is time that we stop talking about it and actually put it into practice.
Now, that's a strong message to all of us here. Are we preaching the gospel or living the gospel as Jesus lived the gospel? Are we going out there in society? Are you mingling? Can the sinners and persons of society call us their friend as they call Jesus their friend? Dr. Chitan?
Ladies and gentlemen, it was a good discussion tonight. I mean, we got into some depth here. It's a work in progress. But I'm so happy that my church, wherever I go around the world and work, I like to tag my church because this is truth. This is truth. We may not be perfect people. We have all our problems, but you know what? We hold on to a God of truth, right? And I'm just happy to thank you to Dr. Alfred here and the mission of Seventh-day Adventist. I had to blow my cover a couple of times and let people know I'm Seventh-day Adventist because when I come to work in national scene, I like to be a professional, right? There are no doubt that some biases about our churches, but I congratulate them. The president, Pastor Stephen, and Pastor Randolph, and all those I've worked with. It was a great thing. I mean, I came here for 1 week, and truth about it, I did a month's work here, right? And I'm looking forward to coming back. My wife is excited about it, and looking forward, folks, so we can work together to finish the work that God gave us, because I know a place that's better than here. and I'm
Yes,
looking
sir.
forward to it.
Amen.
And we stand very proud of the St. Lucia mission in initiating this discussion so that many more fruits can be born from this strategy that's been implemented. We thank you this evening for tuning in to us, a program this evening, and may God continue to bless us. And remember, we can make a difference. Dr. Chitan, one person in Toronto, Canada, making a difference. You spoke about the match and so many people, and that made a difference. One person can make a difference, and that one person can be you. Let that person be you this evening. Have a good night. Let's bow our heads as we end in prayer. Father, we thank you just this evening for this wonderful discussion, dear Lord. May what we have said there, dear Lord, lodge in the hearts of many individuals. We know that you are the one that can change hearts and change minds, dear Lord. Help us see ourselves and see our situation and know and have the courage that we can do something in our country to save lives, dear Lord, and do the work that you have asked us to do. Be the Dr. Alfred, Dr. Chitan as well. Continue to bless their ministry as well. Help us that we may get home safely. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Have a good evening.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Very well.